With the quick change state, we notice that the administrators and the engineering group have read and modify rights, but the sales and manufacturing are actually denied seeing those files as changes are being made. This state acts a lot like the work in progress state, where files can be freely checked in and checked out, and the difference again is in the restrictions later on in the transitions. So let's examine that. We'll take a look at this, and we're going to remove these. We'll add in our 4 groups, and in this case we'll allow engineering to read and modify, not to delete. Sales has no view of this. Administrators can read and modify, and likewise manufacturing. So what we see is we've given the right access to files when they find themselves into the quick change. Later on we'll build some rules around the transition and who can actually move files in and out of the quick change. Finally, we have a state called obsolete, and it's in the obsolete state where files reach the end of their life cycle. This is the state beyond release, where we say a file is perhaps retired. In this case, only the administrator even has the ability to see it. There's no modifications and there's no deleting files in the obsolete state. Note that the engineering, sales, and manufacturing cannot see it. Again, it's completely configurable. Every company is going to be a little bit different. So we'll remove, go back in and add our groups. And again, in this state, if I go to browse or place or make a drawing view or anything or access from Vault a file that is set to obsolete as an engineer, I simply can't see it. Sales has no access. Administrators will be allowed to read, and manufacturing will have no access. The administrator's ability to read ensures that these files can be seen and brought back out of retirement. So now we have the security model in place for each one of these states. The next tab over is the control tab, and the control tab is all about the file control over the purge operation. So in 2010, when we purge a file from the Vault, we have an option. For instance, if I click on release, notice that it says this is a release state. Any file, any one of the versions that's tagged to released will be maintained. So in this case, controlled version, so it will not purge anything. Contrast that with the work in progress. When I go to purge a file that is in the work in progress state, it'll purge all files except for the first and last. This is a means of putting protection over controlled versions and controlled changes. Now each user or each company and an administrator has the ability to, for instance, move this to all, first and last. The settings that come with the software out of the box are the ideal and the logical settings, and these can be controlled, again, like the security level on these files, one at a time. Now for the transitions. Each lifecycle state has a transition. This is represented in blue. So from work in progress to review, we take a look at the criteria, actions, and security. So we're going to examine that effort. So in the work in progress, we have a transitions tab, and notice that we have work to review, work to release, work to quick change, and work to obsolete. Not every one of these is going to be logical or make sense. For instance, the work to quick change. And in that case, when it comes to that transition, we'll see that everybody is denied. That's our means of removing a workflow that does not make any sense. So let's start with work in progress, and we'll go to for review. We take a look. We've got no criteria, no restrictions. Everybody is allowed to do it. So let's examine that. So from work to review, click on the edit button. There's no predefined criteria. We'll take a look at this a little bit later. There is no default actions. and there's no security restrictions. In other words, right now anybody who can see the file in work in progress can move it to the for review. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, if anybody can do it, can the sales or can manufacturing? No, because they cannot see the files in the first place. So that one is set well. Let's move down to the work to released. This is where we start to get into some predefined criteria. So from work to released, in this case I have one criteria, and that's that the property compliance is compliant. Property compliance is a flag inside of Vault Workgroup, Collaboration and Manufacturing, where we can ensure that the properties in the database match those in the file store. So from work to released, I come to click on Edit. I see that this is something that's predestined and predefined within the software. If we wanted to add another criteria to this, the drop-down is very similar to the advanced search that we have inside of the Vault. So we could say file name contains, it has a particular keyword. We could even do things like ensure that for instance, the material is not or does not contain the word default. We could do things like that.